Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm your host today, Samantha Studebaker Carl, and I'm here with my good friends Catherine and Dan and Lori and Kenji and Jason. And today we're going to continue in our discussion of the book Sacred Contracts by Carolyn Myss. Ooh, look at that. I got it to appear without disappearing. And we are in chapter 6, titled The Chakras, Your Spiritual Backbone. But before we get going with that, and that's page 164 in the hard copy. I'm going to give my friends an opportunity to introduce themselves, and then Catherine, you can take it with the reading. So jump out, guys.
Lori Emmons in Denver.
Hey, this is Jason from Tampa.
And Sisek in Las Vegas.
Kenji and Gorham.
Good morning. This is Catherine Clement. And in the Kindle, it's page 204. The chakras, your spiritual backbone. If one is not oneself, a sage or a saint, Aldous Huxley once wrote, the best thing one can do in the field of metaphysics is to study the works of those who were and who, because they had modified their merely human mode of being, were capable of a more than merely human kind and amount of knowledge. That is why we study the writings of the great mystics of the world's religions and the lives of the masters who founded those religions. The masters and mystics have tapped into the underground stream of spiritual knowledge that flows beneath the bedrock of all the great traditions, uniting them and washing away their surface differences. Through these spiritual guides, we gain access to the collective wisdom that feeds the human spirit, filtering into our psyches, souls, and biology. In a symbolic sense, the teachings of the mystics, based on their own immediate experience of the divine, form our spiritual backbone, radiating out into every aspect of our lives. But there is another kind of spiritual backbone that is related to the wisdom of the masters and the 5 stages of a sacred contract. The system of energy centers, known as the chakras, defines and supports our spiritual life, much the way the spinal column, along which they are traditionally located, supports our physical body. Like the stages of a contract, they too follow a progression that reflects our spiritual development from childhood through maturity. But in a more literal sense, the chakras are also connected to the everyday functions of our bodies and minds. They regulate everything from our survival instincts, sex drive, and self-esteem to our emotions, intellect, will, and spiritual aspirations. A knowledge of how they function and how they help you to function is essential to a complete understanding of your sacred contract. Our energy anatomy. When I first began doing intuitive readings, the data that I received did not come to me in any specific order. I would sense an emotional pattern and then the physical problem that had arisen from it, but the energy information was not organized. Over time, my readings became more structured and unfolded in layers. First, I would sense an emotion or trauma, then a physical illness or disease. At a certain point, the order switched, and I saw the physical content and problems first, followed by the emotional and psychological issues, and finally insights into the spiritual issues. I did not realize that these layers of information followed the natural alignment of the chakras until I wrote The Creation of Health in 1988. Indeed, these 7 centers are like an energy spinal cord through which the life force or prana flows into our physical body. Each one represents a different configuration of physical, emotional, and psychological concerns. Eastern religions have determined the spiritual meaning of the chakras in a way that matches perfectly to the psychological and physical information that I gleaned from my readings. To me, the chakras are our energy anatomical system. In Sanskrit, the language of the ancient Indian seers who first identified these energy centers, the word chakra, pronounced chakra, but I say chakra, means wheel or circle. The English words cycle and cyclone are derived from the same root. Chakras are traditionally pictured as lotus blossoms with varying number of petals each inhabited by the energy affiliated with a sacred deity, with a characteristic color, sacred syllable, and animal symbol attached to it. The ancient seers and yogis experienced the energy of the chakras as constantly spinning. I find their function somewhat analogous to that of the hard drive of a modern computer, a powerful disk constantly in motion that provides vast amounts of information while also helping to run other major programs of the computer itself. The chakras concentrate and transform the enormous psychophysical energy that is stored in different parts of your body into spiritual energy and distribute it throughout your entire system. According to the spiritual systems of the East, the chakras ascend in a line from the first or root chakra at the base of the spine through the seventh chakra just above the crown of the head. Between them, in ascending order, the other 5 chakras correspond to the genitals and lower intestine, solar plexus and navel, heart, throat, and pineal gland or third eye. Although each of the chakras corresponds to a different part of the body, they are not material and actually reside within subtle energy sheaths that surround the body, where physical and psychic energies interpenetrate each other. These invisible but highly potent sheaths or levels of psychic energy are sometimes called the mental, emotional, etheric, and astral bodies, and they extend well beyond the physical dimensions of our frame. During my years of doing health readings, I could sense only the 7 energy centers of the chakras. When I began to get impressions of archetypal patterns, however, I sensed an additional center that I consider to be the 8th chakra, where our archetypal energies reside. While the 7 lower chakras are largely personal in nature, relaying information that reflects the physical, emotional, psychological, and spiritual details of our life, the 8th chakra is transpersonal. Connecting to the infinite source of all archetypal energies, it also maintains a connection to every individual body and soul. To get a sense of the activity of this chakra, imagine a 3-dimensional infinity sign whose one arm encompasses and spins through your body and energy sheaths as the other extends out into the universe. Unlike the 7 chakras that are directly involved in your physical anatomy, your 8th chakra is like a Mobius strip that runs between the personal unconscious and the collective unconscious, linking the literal and symbolic dimensions, your personal life, and the impersonal universe. This Mobius strip represents a continual current of cosmic intelligence that feeds into your psyche. And then there's a figure 1, the chakras, and it's got a picture, and it shows that the starting at the bottom, the root chakra is for family and survival. And the next up is money, sex, and power. The middle is self-esteem. The next is emotion, love, and forgiveness. Around the throat is will, choice, and self-expression. The head is intellect, wisdom. And then the crown chakra, relationship to the divine. And then she's saying there's another one, archetypal dimension. And actually, I've heard that there are like 50 chakras or something. Like, it really depends on who you're reading. Because the 8th chakra contains your archetypal patterns, it is also the home of your sacred contract. In physical terms, the 8th chakra is located about an arm's length above the crown of the head. In the esoteric golden light meditation, Taoist adepts visualize an energy body that appears like one's own body, but made of luminous crystal, standing atop the head and an arm's length in height. The crown of the head of your energy body then would correspond to the location of your 8th chakra. In addition to archetypes, the 8th chakra also holds patterns of experience and soul knowledge that are inherent in human consciousness. The archetypal plane to which the 8th chakra connects acts as a magnetic field that organizes life on this planet as well as in our psyche. Its influences are variously referred to as Mother Nature or Gaia, the natural order of things, or even the law of physics. A wide range of teachers, from classic theologians such as Thomas Aquinas and Augustine to contemporary spiritual writers such as Matthew Fox, maintain that there are natural laws of the spirit that operate within each of us and that need not be taught to us directly. We are born already knowing these archetypal truths, that murder, stealing, and lying are wrong, for instance. We are born territorial, and we accept without question that it is against the law of nature for a mother to harm her children. We are also born imprinted with universal laws such as cause and effect, choice and consequence, or magnetic attraction. These laws are represented as much in physics as in the spiritual laws of karma, and they are part of the collective body of divine wisdom imprinted into the 8th chakra. We may have to be awakened to the presence of these truths within us, perhaps by a parent, mentor, or spiritual guide, but we are bound by them nonetheless. After I sensed the presence of the 8th chakra, the structure and nature of my readings changed again. Now the archetypal patterns came to me first, and I followed their subtle currents into that individual's personal energy field and saw them stir the psyche, then move into the conscious mind, the emotional body, and finally enter into a physical manifestation in that person's life. Let me see how much further it is. Yeah, when you get tired of hearing me read, just say something because it keeps going.
We get tired of you reading.
The child archetype and its patterns of vulnerability, for example, to which we can all relate, takes on a more personal identity as it connects to each individual psyche. This was true of Jessie, a young woman I met in a workshop. Her inner child first manifested as a deep-seated fear of living alone, although she was not consciously aware of the reason. She grew up in a comfortable home in a safe neighborhood and had never been harmed or threatened there, so an atmosphere of both emotional and physical security had surrounded her all of her life. Yet, Jessie's inner child held enormous authority over her emotional and psychological well-being. Once she understood that we all have a child archetype at work in our lives, she was able to identify hers in action. Specifically, fears of being kidnapped would overwhelm her when she was home alone at night. As a result, she kept lights on all night long and had a sophisticated alarm system installed. As soon as Jessie got into bed, she felt as she had when, as a little girl, she had waited for her parents to come home. Even with a babysitter, she felt safe only once they were back where they belonged. Jessie found it easy to relate her personal fears and behaviors to the aspect of the child archetype known as the abandoned child. Some of the characteristics that are inherent in the abandoned child are feeling as though your emotional needs do not matter to your parents, and seeing the entire world as a place you will never be able to handle alone. The universal archetype of the abandoned child was directly connected to aspects of Jessie's personal life. This initial insight marked the beginning of a process of self-discovery, through which Jessie could approach her fears through her abandoned child, which gave her some distance and detachment as she investigated her relationship with her parents. Asking herself questions such as, what is the symbolic purpose behind these fears? How can you change these fears into strengths? And are there other areas in your life or other relationships in which the child projects its authority? Helped her sort out her emotions. Jessie realized that she had not been born with these fears, but had developed them as a teenager. They became more intense the older she got, because getting older represented independence and living alone. In fact, her parents had encouraged her throughout her childhood to think of finding a place of her own as soon as she was out of high school, because they felt it was important that she learn how to take care of herself. They also wanted Jessie to become strong enough on her own so that she would not make decisions about her life based on fear. They didn't want her, for example, to get married out of a desire for protection rather than for love. Although Jessie realized intellectually that her parents had wanted her to move out, not to get rid of her, but to help her learn to be effective on her own, she was still upset with them. Yet, Jessie was able to begin working with that insight, beginning with her 8th chakra and threading it through her 7th chakra, then her 6th, all the way down to the 1st chakra. With each chakra, she investigated her fear of the dark within the meaning and context of the characteristics of that energy center. When she visualized her 4th, or heart chakra, for instance, where the emotions reside, she saw that she was really quite angry at her parents. As she came to realize the wisdom of her parents' decision for her, She resolved that anger and with it, her fear. For Jessie, this process opened a door of personal transformation. The abandoned child emerged from its shadow and became a source of strength, reminding her that she need no longer feel the unpredictability of the outside world and the onset of adulthood. You too can apply the chakras to each archetype to help you uncover further indications of your contract. If you feel that you touch on an issue that needs deeper work, I encourage you to seek the help of a therapist or a spiritual director. And I'll stop there.
That's a good stopping point. Thank you for reading.
You're welcome.
You are
This
such
is
an
a-
awesome reader. Love when you read. So
Thank you.
so like my grandmother when she would read. Not saying you
That's
understand what I'm
okay.
saying,
I'm a grandma and a great grandma. It's all right.
but you understand what I'm saying.
I think it was interesting how she was discussing how this fear had come up in her life, and is it Jessie? Jessie was the name of the woman who had this fear, and then she was able to kind of dig into that fear and realized kind of where it came from, but how she went through all of her chakras, identifying some different aspect of it. And I'm like, sheesh, it sounds so complicated. It's like you just about need Carolyn as a coach to go through all of this. But
Who has all that time to go through each one? I'm trying to
Right.
get all the other
I
aspects
kind
of
of
my
wonder if
life
she was
going.
going to her kind of like a therapist, weekly sessions. We talk about this, and I don't
Mhm.
know, something
Chat
along those
GPT.
lines.
Yeah, you can use it as a therapist. Just don't ask the wrong questions.
Right? Definitely interesting. I feel like I've had this kind of like ongoing, I don't know, anger inside of me ever since I was a young person. And in some ways I feel like it is anger at myself for not having I don't know what the word is for it, like upset that I didn't take an action in a specific kind of a way, and because of that, it was like changed the whole course of my life, and so I had this kind of anger, really, and I'm angry at myself for it, but yet I'm like, I've come to terms with all of it, but yet I still feel like I have this anger, and I know that I have some anger related to my parents and some of the things from my childhood that I'm like, it's interesting how
I'm
she
right
talked
there
about
with
going
you
through each
on
of
the
your
anger.
chakras. Go ahead. What was that, Lori?
I said, I'm right there with you on the anger. I mean, so many things that I'm frustrated that I'm unable to do physically, and connecting my symptoms or situation with previous experiences, and I'm just been beside myself.
I I think if we all think about it, we have something that we're deep down that needles us, makes us a little angry or upset or at, at aspects of our lives. And I think, like you said, Samantha, choices that we made at the time, but now in hindsight, when we look back, it says, well, if I had just done that,
Yeah,
then a lot of this might be different. And and like you, I'm kind of there on some things too. I've reconciled it. I'm like, well, I can't go back and change it now. I'm here, and the life that I'm living right now is the life I've got, and I'm happy with, overall happy with it, but there's certain aspects I would love to really change. But I think it all, for me, goes back again to, like, I think Lori, like what you were saying, it, I think it built up too, because you keep thinking, you second guess yourself, then further down the road, like, okay, the next time, well, I'll try this or I'll try that.
Do something different.
And then when you do something different and then you look back, it's like, well, that got me, that's almost like, well, that got me nowhere. It's like, what the do I have to do to kind of get to where I want to go? And then all these little things come up in my mind, all the background stuff, you know, of, well, and it goes back to my inner child and some of that where, well, if I didn't deal with some of that as a kid, that kind of built in the responses I make and how I look at life, maybe I might have been more willing as a kid to try more things to build up that ability to just go and do that some people have, that they just plow in and do anything and whatever, and they're like daredevils in life and just do it, you know.
And then
Go ahead.
all of this, bring in the spiritual, or some people will call the religious, whatever, my faith, that I am already equipped with everything I need. And I have all these possibilities that I'm not taking advantage of or using. And if or since that's the way it is, then why am I like I am or whatever? Why do I keep coming across as I'm angry? I mean, my roommate is like, oh, such an angry person. I said, I know, I understand. I'm sorry. I don't mean to respond that way, but it's the first thing that comes out.
That's me too.
I
Yeah.
will. I look at one person I look at and how she ultimately, I think, takes on challenges is you, Catherine, because you seem to somehow muster through all these years that we've known you now, and it's like, damn it, why can't I be a little bit more like that, to be more willing to just go, screw it, I'm going to try and do the best I can, but then I get in my own way sometimes, and or like Kenji, he keeps showing up, keeps coming here, things like that, and in the pain and stuff, and it's just like, I sometimes just wish I had more of that in me. I'm getting there. I'm slowly but surely. I think I'm getting there a little bit,
That's
but
the whole thing. You were equipped with what you need for your journey, and we were all equipped with what we need for our journeys. And I'm like, I'm confused. I want to
They gave me an
change
empty
this journey.
shoebox. They gave me an empty shoebox. That was my life.
Uh,
Well, like some of these books that we've read where it's like you chose to come here. And then I'm like, but why would I choose this? You know,
Right.
and I see all kinds of beauty in my life and I have all kinds of things I appreciate, but then there's still always these underlying things that I'm upset about that half the time I'm not even sure what I'm upset about, and then I'm like, okay, well, maybe that's just I ate too much sugar yesterday and that's making me angry today, because that feels like that happens sometimes. I'll eat something that, I feel good for a few days and I'll eat some random thing. And then the next day I'm just angry, and I'm like, okay, well, that I think was food related. you know, how many of the things are environment, food, or otherwise related that we don't even know what's affecting us, and we're taking it on as if it is, like a real feeling. I mean, not that it isn't real, but you know what I mean? Like it's
yeah.
maybe it's not
yeah,
real. Maybe it's just mumbo jumbo because we've walked into a wonky energy field or something, and we just can't see it. And how much of that it's just mumbo jumbo. We're just walking through, like, you're at the store and some angry person like bumps into you or whatever, and then all of a sudden you're angry, and it doesn't have anything to do with a person bumping into you because, so you get bumped into. It's not like they punched you in the face or something, it's like you just got bumped into and you're like, oh, I'm sorry. But that person had some kind of anger, energy or whatever. And I feel like
Here's
we
your
have a lot of
recipe
that
for you.
coming at us from different ways.
Here's your recipe for you, Dan. Your mumbo jumbo gumbo.
My Bamba Jabba Gumba.
I like that. But I get that. And what's funny is the last couple days as I've been out driving, and it's not so much somebody else or anybody else, it's my own self. Somehow I've had these just random little thoughts pop in my head that start me on a rabbit hole of getting irritated and upset, and I'm having to go back and a couple times I said, okay, I got to think back to what we learned, what we say to ourselves, and what we, okay, I've got to just tell this part of me, and I pray about it too at that point, and say, okay, this is something that is not doing me good right now. It's making me irritated or upset or stuff. I need it to go away. I need it to get out of me. I need it to go. And I'm, learning how to kind of do that. But the last couple of days, I've just had these weird, and it's been dealing with family stuff. And I think, and it seems to happen around the holidays every year. I get these kind of, and it's like, I know where it stems from. And it stems from seeing them with their family and stuff and everything, and they have all this stuff. And yes, they're my family, but it's not the same because it's when I'm here at home, it's just me. I have my roommate, but that's not even the same. And it's so I tend to, I think sometimes get slightly jealous maybe, and then and then that kind of rears that ugly, well, oh, well, oh, they did this, but didn't tell me about it, or they did that. And it's like, and I'm like, I got to remember, I'm part of the family, but I'm not their immediate family, and so, but it just sometimes irritates the crap out of me. And then I get irritated, and it kind of just carries on until I realize that, okay, I'm in that mode, and now I have to kind of somehow push it off or push it out. But it's like, sometimes how do you avoid that? Because we do it to ourselves, even. It's not somebody bumping up or something. It's just we do it to ourselves. And I hate that. It drives me up the wall sometimes. It's like, no, I don't want to be in that muck, that yuck, that mumbo jumbo gumbo, as Lori calls it.
I know, and we have all these tools that we've learned over the years, and yet a lot of the times we don't apply them. Well, I mean, like you said, we've been through what you say when you talk to yourself. I've lost the name of the book. Is that it? What you
Oh, that's
say?
it.
Something like that. And we have that. We learn all kinds of different things about saying our gratitudes in the morning, or making, journaling the things that we appreciate, or turning on happy music, or just trying to think about something else. I mean, all of it. And yet we still get caught up in the mumbo jumbo soup. But
I think a lot of it has to do with our focus. And
your
And
volume's
some-
really low, Jason.
let me some of it, a lot of it, I think, has to do with our focus. And let me see if I can up my microphone there a little
There you
bit.
go.
Okay. Yeah, so our focus, like, are we, if we are experiencing the mumbo jumbo, then that is where our focus is. And that's a big, from everything I've read with you guys and outside of that, where our focus is, we should be focused on already, apparently, and from a lot of different sources, I'm getting that we should be focused on already having obtained the things that we want and already be in the situation that we want. In a large part because by doing that, not only does it allow us to experience it and find a path to it, but it also reveals to us the things that are obstacles, such as whether we feel like we're worthy of one thing or another, or whether we feel like, for instance, um, instead of being having to be worthy of it, maybe we feel like we're worthy of it, but we feel like we're, like success only comes after hard work, or you have a fear of money, or you have a fear of relationships that doesn't make sense until you put yourself there, and then you realize that you can realize where that feeling, that obstacle even exists. So, I mean, but a lot of times we aren't willing to even focus on having the thing that we want or being in the state of existence that we really want because we're afraid already of not, or we don't believe that we can obtain it. So it's even hard to do that. And so the focus part of it can sort of be both the end and the beginning, but two brackets that we need to also fill in with other stuff that puts us in alignment, like getting our archetypes in alignment, having our inner speak in alignment, having our actions and our daily routine in alignment, catching ourselves when we double talk ourselves. Um, it's but the I mean focus is I think it's a big part.
I think you're onto something there.
Yeah, I agree, but at the
Sure.
same time, oh, go ahead, Samantha.
I was just gonna say, yeah, for sure. And like I said before, I mean, we have the tools, we know the tools, and it's like for me, I know that I do better with my spiraling mumbo jumbo if I will take, you know, 30 minutes in the morning and do a simple meditation that doesn't even really require a whole lot of effort. And it's simple to do, but yet at the same time, I don't always do it. It's like I know the things that are good for me. I have like a little list of like a post-it note on my computer that has some just little statements that, I know that I can say to myself. If I just open that up every morning and read through that, probably takes me less than 30 seconds to read through that and I'll have a better day. But I won't always do it. And I don't get what that is, and if that's some kind of like energy block that I need to dig out of my chakras or something. I don't know. I'm not really sure. Because if I do it, I'm feeling better. I have a better day. My work flows better, et cetera, et cetera. But then I just won't always do it, and that's a part that I'm just curious about. What self-sabotagey thing do I have going on in my energy body that I need to work on specifically to overcome that? And that's kind of what I feel like I need to.
And then you think you got it all together and the rules change. The technology advances or changes and I'm like, I can't keep up with all this.
I was gonna say, Samantha, I'm kind of like you. When I get up in the morning and I, do my I have a full-on morning routine. I do pretty much Monday through Friday before I go out and Uber. But when I pray before I head out, I do it after I've gotten up and gotten dressed and this, that, and the other thing. I do it usually just before I head out. My day usually most of the time goes a lot better, or I handle it better. But then there are days where it's like I get I'll sleep in, I'll snooze or this or then I'm like, okay, now I gotta get up and get going. And sometimes I don't always take that time like you, knowing full well in my head I need to do it because it's part of what kind of is the routine and helps me set myself, I think, for the day. And I don't do it, and then I'm kind of off, even from the get-go. And that might be part of that. Maybe it's just learning that that's part of how I set the tone for my day. And when I don't set that tone, I open myself up and I'm kind of, I guess, discombobulated, or I allow it to open the door for other things. Because, like you said, I have my faith, I have all the tools we've learned from the many different books that we've gone over. And I think deep down, most of these books cover a lot of the same thought aspects. They just show different ways of how to apply it and use it and bring it in for what's best for each one of us. The only thing I still have problems with saying that I agreed to the life that I live here on Earth before I came here. I'm like, had I really known or was able to remember that when I came down here, I probably would not have signed up. But but
Well,
it's
Go
but
ahead.
it's just interesting
And yet
how
maybe we did. We did it anyway.
yeah.
Maybe we were
Well,
having a self-sabotaging moment when we were choosing our next life.
Oh, but it's just interesting how we can be given tools and aspects and things to use. So why the frick do we not embody them and use them more in our lives? And is that part
egos,
is
We
that
need
part of
something to complain about.
well, is that part of what we need to do? Going back with this chakras and going back and talking with the inner child and the abandoned child and uh all the different, archetypes and stuff, it just
Yes,
and
which
sometimes who has
archetype
time for
is
that?
which archetype is the one that
What are you saying, Lori?
already 10:45. Which archetype is it that is like the self-saboteur? Which one is that?
That's Kenji.
the saboteur,
Kenji.
The prostitute.
Saboteur?
and
No, back through here.
the
They always get
ego, the emotions, the
Because it's
energies,
not
the
like a main one.
entities.
It's like an underline.
it's the Hamburglar
The hamburger.
archetype that he's
I used to love that guy.
I'm looking for the
always
saboteur.
causing
You're probably
problems.
right. There's probably the
It's
saboteur.
all
The destroyer.
involved.
There's a destroyer. Maybe that's
Oh.
the
Oh
one.
yeah, and the fool.
The reason why we don't grab the
Ego.
tools is for misery. Misery is what we prefer.
No.
I don't think it
No,
is.
I
I
mean,
think that
I don't think so.
I'm just
an
saying.
aspect that we
Yeah, I hear you.
do to ourselves for some reason.
Because there's ego, emotions, entities, energies,
I
all
feel like
involved
somehow
in
or
there.
another the saboteur is connected to whatever one it is that makes us feel like we're not worthy of. Like we're not worthy of achieving whatever it is that we think we need to achieve in our life, and that can be any aspect of our life. And so we keep sabotaging ourselves. And I feel like over the years, I go through ups and downs of getting better at not self-sabotaging and getting better at using the tools I know I have available to me. And then, then you slide off and then you start going into the other, back into it again. Then we dig ourselves out, go back into it.
Yeah,
Victim
climb the mountain
mentality.
again.
The victim mentality does that too.
Well, I had a kind of a revelation earlier in the week about archetypes because I'm, kind of in a routine, kind of getting, moving along well, and then like you get that inner speak in there, and it's obviously some sort of an archetype that's like, because I'm thinking about like, well, kind of at a crossroads, like figuring, well, should I continue on in my chosen profession, or I have options? Should I look elsewhere and do something else? And I had that one voice that says, well, I really like to paint. I like to do art and stuff like that. And I was like, well, you get to do that when you help me do what I want to do.
Do we have those
So I'm like, is what I
conversations?
tell
Don't we?
myself. I'm like, that's great. Well, when we get to this point, we'll be able to do some more of that. But you all gotta get in line with what I'm trying to do and help me get what I want for you to get what
Uh,
you want. Let's get this
Then
straight.
then there's those trains of thought that are like, that's what you need to be following, not the stuff you think you need to ought to do. Is you're supposed to be following that side of yourself that is like, this is what I want to do. And we're like, no, you can't have that until. I found the one on
And
the saboteur. Let me read it. All right, go ahead, Todd, if you had something you want to say first.
go ahead.
Okay. So the saboteur says the saboteur archetype is made up of the fears and issues related to low self-esteem that cause you to make choices in life that block your own empowerment and success. As with the victim and prostitute, you need to face this powerful archetype that we all possess and make it an ally. When you do, you will find it calls your attention to situations in which you are in danger of being sabotaged or sabotaging yourself. Once you are comfortable with the saboteur, you learn to hear and heed these warnings, saving yourself untold grief from making the same mistakes over and over. Ignore it, and the shadow saboteur will manifest in the form of self-destructive behavior or the desire to undermine others. And then it just gives examples of movie and drama shows and
The
stuff.
shadow there, that gets me every time. The shadow of all these different archetypes and my ideas.
Hamburglar.
Well, again, I think a lot is the time we waste focusing on the things we don't like and not focusing enough on the things that we really want and like to want. And we allow the saboteur to get in there and give us a reason to be able to complain or whatever it might be. But if we really are focused like a laser on what it is you want, and every activity you do and every thought that you do, that you think is focused on getting the thing that you want, then you're gonna get the thing that you want eventually. But you've got to I mean, it's not easy to focus like that for sure. So
That's the thing. That's the thing. How do we how do we deal with both? Because we do need to recognize and deal with the archetype and the saboteur and whatever we find that we feel are our archetypes, but and work to deal with them. But then in dealing with them, how do we keep them, like it says, learn to make it an ally or a friend, or learn to heed? So, and then, but still maintain that laser focus, because that takes a lot of damn energy. And I've got to know, I'm trying to keep enough energy just to keep going and keep alive and keep surviving and keep, myself here. How does one do that? And I think that's the eternal question we all have. And because we look at some people and say, wow, they got it all together, when I think if we're honest, they probably will say, no, we don't have it all together. We just have a lot of tools that we use that help us. But if you really knew what was going on inside of me, you'd run away scared the other way.
It kind of reminds me
And
of someone driving down the like a parent driving down the road with a car full of kids, and the kids, gradually get louder and less get a little more out of control as driving down the road, and it's fine to get into where you need to go, and as long as she's ignoring them and paying attention to the road and where she's going, and she'll get to where she wants to go. But when it comes to a point where the kids are so rowdy and so rambunctious that she has to pull off on the side of the road and stop to address each of the kids and get them back in their seats and everything, then then you kind of, if you're at that point, then you kind of have to stop the car and, you know, corral the
driving
unruly
for sure.
kids. But if you
Yeah.
just keep
That's a-
focusing, if you're able to,
that's-
then maybe you'll get there. Go ahead.
That's a good what do you call that? What's the literary
Analogy.
Analogy.
It's a great analogy of, yeah, I mean, shoot, how many times in life are we going along and we're ignoring all this mumbo jumbo that's happening, that the crazy kids in the back, which is all of our emotional baggage or internal dialogue
I-
or shoulda, woulda, couldas, all those things. We kind of picture that as the unruly children in the back seat.
Oh,
I
got
wear-
red
And
mirror
sometimes we
circles,
gotta
you know it.
slam on the brakes and be like, well, no, we're not going anywhere until you calm down.
I wear this.
Don't make me
Right.
drop
face
you off over
mask.
here on the side of the road.
I wear this happy face mask when inside it's mumbo jumbo gumbo, and I tend to say that I got all my stuff together in one sock, but then I put the sock on my foot.
Hmm.
And then you put the foot in your mouth.
No,
Foot in your mouth. Put
Oh my
the socks
gosh.
on the
Um,
wrong foot.
I'm just teasing.
I love that analogy, the kids in the back seat. I'm gonna that.
I think
I
our
was on a webinar the other day. I don't know what day it was. Could have been last night for all I remember. But anyway, I was on this webinar and they were talking about kind of our limiting beliefs. I don't remember how it led into it, but anyway, the thing was is he was kind of showing some statements of like what if statements, and for instance, um, how would you act differently if you knew you couldn't fail, or how would you move forward in this life situation or whatever if there were no obstacle to overcome, or something along that lines. It was the webinar was kind of breaking up a lot, so I couldn't hear everything and why we ended up on those, but he was making those statements and it reminded me of some other things I have kind of like on my little post-it note thing of where is my post-it note? It's on my other computer. It's not on this one. But anyway, I was sitting there thinking about those and how a lot of times we put so many conditions on our success, or we put so many fears on it, that we literally do kind of hold ourselves back from our real potential because of our fears and our mumbo jumbo in the back sheet, but yeah, how
our
can we
sarcasm.
look at that more of, okay, how would I act in this situation? What choices would I make differently if I knew I couldn't fail, or I knew that it was all going to work out right? I mean, I already kind of know everything's going to work out right, regardless of what we do. So, I don't know. That was a random thought.
Yeah.
I think
I
it's oh
sometimes with when I hear people like making sarcastic jokes, or where they're like, it's like, oh well, if I do this and I get there, this other thing will probably happen, and it's kind of they're kind of saying it as a joke, but it's a serious hindrance to your achievement of success and the things that you want if you're constantly throwing those in there. because it's a real thing that's coming up in your mind, and we kind of need to, put
Speaking
that
of
view out,
me.
huh?
I say, you're speaking about me.
Everyone does it to some extent. But I hear people making those comments sometimes just out in the real world, and I can tell that they're kind of it's just, thoughts are things, and those things are definitely powerful. And but they talk about how the subconscious doesn't know what a joke is. Um, so it's but we make those slight little jokes about things, but there's meaning to them behind us. Otherwise, we wouldn't be popping in. They wouldn't be popping into our head. So that's a starting point, for anybody to make progress.
Yeah, for sure. I'm reminded of the thing where it taught, whenever you say, "Oh, you're such a pain in my butt," or or "This is such a pain in my neck," or whatever, and then you have pain in your neck. You've created that by just bringing it into the world. Sorry, Catherine, go ahead. I know we got to wrap up here directly, but go
Yeah,
ahead.
I got to jump, but I was just gonna say that believe it or not, I was looking at the voices and personalities on ChatGPT, because you can choose like what kind of personality you want it to be, and whether it's supportive or encouraging or whatever.
Compassion.
One of the options is cynical.
Oh no.
Who would want that?
It just, I was like, what? Why why would there be a cynical? Like who would pick cynical as their ChatGPT? It just floored me that option was even there. I don't know why. I guess I should have expected it to be there, but it's really surprised me that option was there, and people must choose it or it wouldn't be there, So, personally, I don't need any more cynicism in my life, but I picked the supportive one, the encouraging one.
Yeah, I would too. I was doing a class on AI, and um, one of the I guess whatever you call that type of personality traits was compassionate. And so if you tell like they were talking about making an AI bot for a like a receptionist for a funeral home, and so you'd want your bot to have a compassionate personality, not, not a cynical one or
I need
sarcastic
help with that one.
I
I
found
need
that
that.
funny. I found that funny.
Teach me to be more of that.
And then my computers goes down and the tech support guy can't get out here, and it's one thing after another.
Yeah.
And wonder why I become cynical.
True.
Love you guys. I know you gotta go.
All right, I'm gonna wrap it up for today, guys. It was an awesome chat. I love talking to you guys about all these things. And for those of you who are watching, if you've got a bunch of unruly, emotional children in the back seat, pull over and boot those little guys out.
Leave them on the side of the road.
Well, leave them on the side of the road. They're just your own personal self-saboteurs anyway, so you don't want those. Not real children. Don't put your real children on the side of the road. You can leave them at the end of the driveway and make them run up to the house, though. All right, guys, have an awesome, amazing week, and we'll see you next time on the Saturday Morning Mastermind. Bye for now.
Yes.
Bye, guys.